You are listening to www.integralnaked.org.
Hi, my name is Sterling, and I'm from the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana.
That's what I heard. Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Thank you for making the effort to join us.
I don't even know how I got here, but I'm here.
Okay.
I don't think I put any effort into it. It just fell into my lap. So that's thank Annie for that, actually. We obviously reservations are general disaster zones.
Yeah.
And there's been a basic de-evolution taking place there for about 150 years.
Yeah.
And what is left of the tribal culture there is basically all pathological.
Yeah.
And basically the area is generally also red. I mean, it's generally ethnocentric in the worst way. It's also unhealthy ethnocentrism, if that's if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the place in a sense, and we've got this huge wind energy project coming in that's going to be absolutely massive. I mean, so big. And in 8 to 10 years, when it's paid off, it's going to be bringing in so much money that I'm not even going to talk about how much money is coming in.
Yeah.
And because I don't want to see you guys up there asking for any of it.
Yeah.
But there is no way for that place to handle that kind of influx of money. When we're talking about people who literally don't even know what money is for the most part, 80% of them unemployed, and that's the way they've lived their whole lives. To hand them hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, I mean, I would sit there and watch everybody start dying, actually, even faster than they are now.
Yeah.
And there's that aspect, and also so I guess the question is, how do we go about setting up something there so that we can specifically deal with the just getting it to healthy red.
Yeah, yeah, but that's important.
And then getting it moving forward, and because I'm ultimately interested in seeing this place not only heal, but begin to participate in the world as, and recognizing that we are part of something much bigger than just this little piece of land.
Right.
So, I mean, what kinds of therapy do need to be taking place there? How do you talk to people who are suffering so much that they don't even know that they're suffering? How do you, obviously with this, there is some money that's coming in right now.
Yeah.
And so within the next year, we have the opportunity to set up actual programs to start dealing with some of this. But I have absolutely no idea where to go. And I know for a fact that the other people who are in positions of power to make these decisions have even less of an idea of where to go. So I'm just curious. Do you have suggestions about books, people to speak to, directions that we might take so that we can just start getting something going there?
Yeah, and is it the money that's coming in? Is it just going to be a distribution program, or is it going to a central authority, or is it just everybody's going to divvy it up and billionaires overnight?
Yeah, well, no, I'm sure that's the other problem, is that there are people there who think that is the ultimate solution, is that if everybody just has money, as long as we all have 2 Dodge pickups and a winter coat, then everything's going to be fine.
That's right.
And it's obviously not. But
you need 3 pickups.
Yeah. Maybe a Chevy.
A Chevy, yeah.
Or a dually.
Yeah.
But the problem is that nothing is in place right now. There is nobody really has any idea what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm in a position to actually suggest something.
Okay. Yeah,
So we need an infrastructure to receive that and distribute it, so it's not just like a doling out of money to all tribal members.
Yeah. The part of the difficulty of integral approach is that even though the evidence for the individual components of these things are simply overwhelming, and that's the interesting thing about it. The evidence for first, second, and third person, the evidence for states of consciousness, and so on. It's not seriously contested by authorities in the field. So what we've done with the integral framework is simply put these uncontested truths together in a framework that allows you to draw on all of them. Now, the strength of that is that they're fundamentally uncontested. The problem is putting them together and then having people actually get in and sort of try to grasp the big picture takes some work, takes people that are predisposed to it, and also, frankly, takes a certain degree of consciousness evolution to even find that interesting or want to do it. Or say, what do you mean, I don't need that, give me the money. That's all I really need is the three cars, the Chevy and and there are a lot of people just sort of think like that. That's not bad. It's just that's not integral. So part of what, and then once you get somebody sort of seeing the integral picture, the problem you're dealing with, it's right up there with the Mideast. In other words, it's a 4-quadrant, it's an awkward situation where something has to be done in all 4 quadrants for it to work and stick, and there are problems in all of it. Problems in part intrinsic to whatever culture is there. In large part, of course, it's a culture in a wider context that causes enormous conflict because of the marginalization involved and the lack of integration in society and therefore oppression that occurs negatively. All of these things are just overwhelming. And the sense of meaninglessness and hopelessness, it's just hard for anybody outside of that to even begin to fathom. So it's not something that you can go in and say, oh, the problem is we have to vaccinate everybody for smallpox. And once we then that's good. Or, oh, we just have to do this. It fundamentally has to be at least some changes in all 4 quadrants in terms of the institutional structure, in terms of the cultural understanding of the community that's going to support it, in terms of individual understanding, the upper left, and most importantly, individual behavior. What do I do on a day-to-day basis to make this happen? And so getting all that together, obviously, that's hard. It's hard for any one of us to do that, let alone get a sort of concerted community effort. So the best thing you can do, realistically, is find a handful of people who might be predisposed towards at least first understanding the integral framework and getting a sense of these are the fundamental components of the human being. The evidence for these components are overwhelming. We know they're there. If you leave them out, we can guarantee one thing, whatever you're doing is going to fail. So at the very least, you can say, well, we don't have enough time to take this integral approach. And I go, actually, I don't have enough time not to. This is the short path. This is the shortest, simplest thing you can do to make change stick. You leave out any one of these things, guaranteed failure. So what you want to do is have a handful of people that are at least alive to that kind of concern and can talk about it. I don't think they're going to be able to change the community at large. I think what you can do is have certain seed projects, certain ways of saying, let's try educational here, let's try having community meetings here, let's see ways we can implement healthy RAD. And by and large, that doesn't mean that the whole community is going to understand integral. It means the leaders are, or at least the leaders that you're going to talk with. And they're going to make suggestions to the community. This is what we need for healthy RAD. These are the suggestions, behavioral suggestions we make in terms of how the money is going to be allocated. And then if you have a certain amount of money that sort of individuals can do what they want to, but there's sort of the community money, that would be, some part of that would be earmarked for integral approaches in some of these areas. And what happens over a 2 and 3 and 5 year period, it's a very slow process, but the things that aren't integral start to drop away. It's just wait, you keep doing it, and nothing happens, and you can't figure out why. And so the places that are integral, though, they slowly start to stick. And that's sort of our experience, a very, very high success rate where that's put into place. But it's that kind of concerted effort. It's broad, it's difficult, but it's the shortest path to doing that. I'd find a few people that you could talk with, a few leaders, and see if you can get them interested in this. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Yeah, and please stay in touch with us on that too, because it's an extremely important issue, not just of a sort of the subculture that is Native Americans here, but it's also the subcultures, if you will, around the world. 70% of the world's population doesn't have a center of gravity that's up to world-centric. And if you don't have up to world-centric, you cannot participate in the larger context at large. And if you can't do that, you will be disadvantaged culturally. Not oppressed, just out of the cultural consciousness that would let you take advantages of things that are there. And so it's a very serious problem around the world. It's an absolutely pressing problem. And reservations are one of the most tragic examples of it. But go to inner city anywhere, Harlem, Bed-Stuy, South LA, I mean, most of New Jersey, and it's the basic same problem. So anyway, do stay in touch on that. And good luck. Good luck.